Marty's real name is Ernie Anderson. Now, Ernie left here in 1966. Tim Conway pulled a bunch of strings to get him out to Hollywood. And he knocked around there for about a year, and then he became the most famous, highest paid announcer in the history of the business. You've heard him every day, probably didn't know who it was. He did Roots and The Love Boat and countless things, all the big things that they produced. He was the voice of ABC. And way back in the 60s, he was making $2 million a year and spending it. So he really hit the big time. There was a PBS special out just recently called The Short Life of Ghilardi, Turned Blue. I don't know if any of you saw it, but it was fantastic. It just perfect history, and it was the highest rating program PBS ever had on. They're going to run it again very soon. So, okay. Speaking of Ernie, when Ernie passed away, I did a Big Chuck and Little John tribute to Ernie Anderson DVD. This is a great DVD. It did a lot of okay, modeling it. Beautiful Diane. You have to sort of bend one knee. Do you ever see how they do that? I don't want to do it. I'll probably fall off the stage. Okay. Okay. Who knows Houlihan's real name? Bob Wells. Robert Wells. That's right. Hooli joined us way back in like 1962. Or 3, or something like that. He was an F-80 jet fighter pilot. And he was actually the tallest. He was about my size. He was 6'1", 6'2". Tallest jet fighter pilot in the country, because he can only have to be shorter than a certain height to fit in the cockpit. But he sort of stooped down and all that so he could get in. But he was something. A lot of Houlihan stories in the book. In my book, a lot of Ghilardi stories. In fact, the first third of the book is like Houlihan and Ghilardi stories. So.